How do you feel about Jax from the Amazing Digital Circus being trans? I saw it, like, I did kind of see it coming, but I think it was a good reveal that made a lot of sense of, like, especially in terms of the backstory of how her coming out went and just how everything went to shit. I honestly think it helped contextualize why the character was the way she was. I'm not going to lie, I bawled my eyes out during that monologue. Michael Kovac, Jesus Christ, you magnificent voice actor. I thought it was a good decision, and honestly, I think it takes a lot of honesty and genuine vulnerability on the part of Gooseworks to basically, because she said before that Jax was the character she kind of related to the most, the character she put most of herself into. And I think it does take, I think it takes a certain amount of vulnerability to say, hey, these negative traits are something I'm capable of. And I put them all into this character. And that's a lot. And I think that's something I don't really see with a character that with characters that have functioned essentially as author avatars or self-inserts. So the thing I like about Jax in regard as trans rep is, right, break through the window, is that, yes, she's not a good person. She's done horrible things. But I think that's fine. I know that's controversial to say because apparently there's a lot of folks, especially on Twitter, which, thank God I'm barely on that website and just hear this shit secondhand, thank God, who are like, oh, this is a character who's done horrible shit. This is bad trans rep. But I think there's a fine line that gets lost. I think something that gets lost in this kind of discussion, this kind of nuance that we really need to have, is that there's a fine line between a character who is trans, who has done bad shit, and a character, like, there's a fine line between a character who's done bad shit who happens to be trans, and a character who the story is bad, like, who the story is saying is bad because they're trans, if that makes sense. And I do not think for a minute Jax is the latter, because while a lot of her experiences coming out as trans definitely shaped the character and, like, who she is and, like, is ultimately why she pushed people away the way she did, the story's not vilifying her trans identity. And I think that's important. That's an important distinction to make when discussing, what was I going to say? When discussing trans rep and if the character's allowed to be problematic or not. And again, I think that gets lost when people are talking about this, and I think that's a problem, honestly, because I think queer characters should be allowed to be a fucking mess, if that makes sense. Especially if the point of the story is this unaccepting environment basically is why they became the way they were. One of my favorite lesbian characters is Catra from She-Ra and the Princess of Power, and she is very much that kind of character where while it was never explicitly because she was gay, the text did make it clear that because she had this hostile environment growing up, she was shaped into someone who felt like she didn't belong, which, even though it wasn't specifically because the character was gay, I think is a concept that gay audiences can relate to. So yeah, I think it is important to show the uglier sides of queer stories. It's a hard thing to do, and I think Gooseworks did that very well. And we blew up a house, so this is very good timing.